Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today is October 20th, and it's not quite morning anymore. We are at the noon hour, and we're delighted to offer today a preparing to bid session on the janitorial services contract that was let this morning by the Department of Enterprise Services at the Washington state level. We have a number of you on the line and a number of you still joining at this moment. Normally, when we do these, we like to give you a few days to access the solicitation online so you can pull it up and we make it interactive. But given that it was just posted a few hours ago, we will approach it a little bit differently today. But the goal of this exercise today is to get you aware of the solicitation and get you oriented to the contents therein, in the hopes that you're as efficient as possible when you're exploring the opportunity and deciding whether or not you're going to bid. So my name is Tiffany Scroggs, and I manage the Apex Accelerator, formerly known as PTAC, which is a nonprofit program based here in Washington state that helps businesses compete for federal, state, and local government contracts and subcontracts. So our job is to help you be successful. If you're not in Washington state, that's okay. We do have Apex Accelerator neighbors in other parts of the country, and you're welcome to reach out to them for very similar services. So I'll go ahead and just do the next slide here. Keep your questions coming into the chat. We'd be delighted to answer them. We might answer them live, and Lisa will interrupt me, or we might wait till the end, just depending on the nature of the question. But my slide deck won't take more than maybe 20, 30 minutes, and then we'll have plenty of time to explore your questions. So just real quick here on the agenda. So I already kind of briefed you a little bit on why we're here today, but I'll dive into a little bit further about our approach here. I'll talk about what the Apex Accelerator is and does, and then we'll get into the fun part, which is talking about janitorial services solicitation history within the Department of Enterprise Services. We'll review the actual opportunity that's posted on webs right now. We'll introduce to you a tool called the pre-bid checklist. And if you pre-registered for this event, you were able to get a copy of that checklist, if I'm not mistaken, Lisa, as well as a copy of our bid or no bid decision matrix. And then lastly, we'll round it out with resources and, of course, answers to all of your questions. So a little bit about the Apex Accelerator. We are funded in part by the United States government, and we're supported locally by Washington State, Green River College, and several economic development organizations. Myself, I work out of the Thurston Economic Development Council based in Lacey, Washington. And our whole mission, like I said before, is to increase government contracts and subcontracts to Washington firms. We have a strong focus to serve small, minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses throughout the state. And we have a team of 17 that helps us do that. These advisors have been trained specifically to guide businesses from, hey, what is the government buying, all the way through, okay, I won lots of contracts. How do I get paid? And what's my next steps to grow my business in public sector contracting? So we invite you to use our services, especially on opportunities like this related to statewide contracts. This is our team across the state. They're a fantastic group of folks. We've kind of separated them out into geographic regions, and you can reach out to the one closest to your region. You can find the same map and location tool on the WashingtonApex.org website, because I'm going to move pretty quickly through this. And if Lisa, if you're available, you can just type the info@ email into the chat. That's the best way to get a hold of us if you're trying to reach out for the first time. Okay, the fun part. So solicitation history. So Washington State Department of Enterprise Services manages statewide contracts with over 1,500 vendors, that's you, businesses, and almost $2 billion in annual spend. So it's a significant portion of spend that the state manages out of the one agency, the Department of Enterprise Services, also known as DES. And what's kind of special about these statewide contracts is that state agencies are required to use them, one. Two, local governments are encouraged to use these statewide contracts. So if you were successful in getting on a statewide contract, you could expect your customers to maybe include the University of Washington, the City of Lacey, or Department of Enterprise Services themselves. So it kind of just depends on the commodity that you're in there for, but it's usually for commonly purchased goods and services, and janitorial certainly fits that bill. The Janitorial Services has had a long history. The most recent contract that was let, it feels like it was just a few months ago, but I guess it was 2 years ago that they let that contract. That one expires March 2024. And you can see everything there is to know about this contract online. And we'll talk about how to do that. You can read the current contract, the actual contract language. You could see the awarded contractors. You can see their pricing. And the pricing is on this particular contract is by a percent markup rate, which are based off the labor and industry prevailing wage rates. So in Skamania County, if the prevailing wage rate was X, they would the company on contract would say, my pricing is a markup percentage on the X. And so you can view all of that and see the pretty big range that's available there. So when you're the current contract, so I'm on the solicitation history webpage, and we can give this link. I'm sorry, I didn't include that. Oh, I did include that. So if you click on this link here in this slide that we were just on, it'll take you to the contract summary page. And if you scroll down on that, you'll be able to see the current documents drop down. And if you drop down on that, you'll see vendor by county pricing and contact information. And that's where you can find that markup rate on the current contract holders. You can also see the list of the 8 vendors that are currently on contract. And you can see a lot of other information on that site. So do not skip reviewing all the information here. It'll give you a lot of intel into how the state manages this contract. And maybe you can see trends and differences between how this new solicitation is written versus how it was in the past. So the solicitation history, we always like to look up top vendors by spend. So these are the businesses that are on contract now that and how they're being successful, because even though you're on a statewide contract, there is no guarantee that you'll get any work. So we want to see who's actually successful by being on contract and how much work they're getting as a result. So this is pulled directly from data.wa.gov. They have a little dashboard there that we could teach you how to use if you get stuck. They also have a customer service line that you can call or email if you get stuck as well. But you can pull up the data for any particular statewide contract and take a look at the vendors that are listed on there and how successful they are by quarter. Each of those different colors are just a different quarter. So really, we're more concerned about the total spend. And you can see here that CLX LLC is the top vendor in terms of success on this contract. Another way to pull the data is to export it into Excel. And you were provided an Excel spreadsheet. This is the one that I created. I created what's called a pivot table within Excel that showed us the top agencies that are using the contract. And not surprisingly, the Social and Health Services Department, DSHS, is the top spender. They're also one of the largest agencies in the state, followed by Department of Health, Children and Youth Families, the Attorney General's Office. Thurston County is a big user of this, it looks like, University of Washington, et cetera, et cetera. So you can kind of see the agencies there and how much spend they're providing to this contract holders. Another way to see who the government is buying from is by just opening up the state's checkbook. So back in the day when we all had checkbooks, there was like this check roster of all the places that you spent money on. And the state still uses that terminology with fiscal.wa.gov/spending checkbook. And this is a powerful tool if you wanted to check up on your competitors. You can just simply type in any business name into the checkbook and see how much money the state has been paying them for contracted services. Another tool is the reports feature on webs, which we're not going to dive into today because there's not a whole lot on there for janitorial. And the third way you can get information about public contracts, because they're public, is through a public disclosure process. And so you could follow the rules and send in a process document that says, I would like to see the following, and see if the state or the government agency is able to provide that through the public disclosure process. We have pretty open laws regarding what's publicly available information. And so that process might be a powerful tool to your firm. So here's the current opportunity, hot off the press. I think it was posted within the last few hours. I just saw it about 20 minutes ago and hurried to fix my slides. You can see the customer reference number is how you would pull it up if you wanted to on Webs. It's 24723. The title is Predictable Janitorial Services. And a couple of notes on here. One is to remind yourself that Webs is the only authoritative source for procurements. So you noticed earlier on, I don't work for DES. So anything I say is not an authoritative thing to say, nor is it in writing, nor is it on Webs. So anything that we say here and do today is not official. It's mainly used to be helpful to you. But if you want actual answers direct from Department of Enterprise Services that are binding, you would put those in writing to Department of Enterprise Services. We'll talk a little bit about how to use the Q&A period here in a minute. But keep in mind, even if you got a copy of the solicitation because you downloaded it from my chat here or we sent it to you via email, you would always want to log into Webs and double check that you've downloaded the actual solicitation and all the other corresponding documents direct from the source. You also want to be on here to check your commodity codes. This is how the system will email you of opportunities and changes to this specific opportunity. I want to make sure your commodity codes in your profile match that of any potential solicitation that you'd like to get. And then lastly, you want to make sure you're getting the emails. So if you were not notified about this posting today, maybe let's hop into your Webs and check your profile to make sure that you're getting emails in the right commodity code. The other thing you can see when you're logged into Webs looking at the solicitation is the vendors downloading. And this list has grown significantly over the last hour. When we first pull it up, there was maybe a dozen, and now there's an entire page. There might be even 2 pages after we're done talking today. But you can see here the company name, their email, their phone number, and their status in terms of whether or not they're considered a small business or whether or not they're certified by the Office of Minority Women's Business Enterprises. That's the OMWBE acronym there. So this is what it looks like on my profile. And so I mentioned before, you want to make sure that your profile is up to date with 2 things. One, 3 things. One, your contact information, so you're getting the emails. Your commodity codes to make sure you're getting emails relevant to opportunities you're interested in. And third, your size status in terms of whether or not you're small. I'm pretty sure in the solicitation, there's a direct award for small businesses or those owned by veteran-owned businesses that are certified by the state as a veteran-owned business. So you want to make sure that your profile matches what you think you are qualified for. So right here, my organization is considered a small business. So it says right there that I am a Washington small business. So you want to make sure that that's accurate and you understand the definition behind that. Okay, so back to the Webs posting for this current opportunity. You want to make sure you are able to download all the attachments and save them in a folder where you can easily access them later. It's a pretty predictable posting here today. They started out with the competitive solicitation, and that's the document we'll dive in a little bit today. So if you have it, go ahead and open it up, and we're going to get ready to use that in a second. There's going to be the bidder certification, the bidder's profile. That's a pretty standard for all statewide contracts. Exhibit B is probably going to be something that we'll dive into in a one-on-one setting. Exhibit B2 is going to be your scope of work, and this is going to be outlining exactly what it is the state's asking you to do if you were to get on contract. There's an Exhibit C, and Exhibit D is the sample contract if you were to be awarded. And lastly, Exhibit E is the inclusion plan. So notice there's no amendments yet, but we will fully expect amendments. Either the contracting officer or purchaser will get alerted to some problematic element or a typo in the solicitation, and they want to update that. They'll post an amendment, and that's where you'll find it there. Or at the very least, what they're going to do is post the answers and questions that you all provide. So you'll ask a question, they'll tally it in a list and answer them one by one and put that whole document up on the amendments tab. So let's zoom out a little bit. Let's talk about where we're at. So you've hopefully, you'll ultimately read the solicitation documents. And at that, the next step there is to decide whether or not you'll bid. You do have a decision to make. After you decide if you're going to bid, then you strategize on how best to organize your approach. Then you assemble the bid and submit. What we see a lot of businesses do is they get very excited. They see something they want to bid on. It's within, kind of what they do, and they start assembling their bid right away. And they skip kind of the reading all the stuff and really understanding the solicitation, and they skip the strategy around organizing an approach. So that's where your advisor might come in handy, is to meet with them and kind of map out an approach that will be beneficial and ensure that you're putting in a responsive solicitation response. So we recommend that you use a pre-bid checklist when you first open up that solicitation. It does not read like a novel. It's not a work of fiction. It's a government contract solicitation, which can be a little bit dry and written with the approval of attorneys. And so if you open up a pre-bid checklist or print it out at the same time, it gives you something to pull out the information that's useful to you, so that you can kind of go back. A lot of people also will print off the solicitation and grab their highlighter or their like little Post-it tabs and start highlighting the important elements of the solicitation. I prefer a separate checklist. And what I do here is I have the checklist item. So the first one in here is deadline to submit. Number one important thing to pay attention to. And then I write in the answer of when it's due. And then I write where I found that information, so I can go back and double check myself. If I'm coming up on the deadline, I want to make sure that I got the deadline right. Especially if you're the type to give yourself a fake deadline, you want to make sure you actually know the real deadline, as well as any fake deadlines you might have given yourself or your team. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and open up the solicitation document that we sent you all, that is also available on Webs. And we're going to start filling this out together. So if anyone has it open, can you tell me the solicitation number? Go ahead and unmute and shout it out, or I'll open up my chat so I can see that too. 24723. Gold star to whoever said that. Thank you for, yay. All right, Miss Martin, thank you. 24723. So that's what I would write, just right into this spot right here, under solicitation review check sheet for solicitation number. And it says question marks here because I built this slide before we had a chance to see the solicitation. When is the deadline to submit? Has anyone found that?
December 15th.
All right. I knew it would be in December, so we went ahead and put the question marks in there. But December 15th, what page did you find that on?
I don't know. Let's see.
Oh,
4.
Yep. Okay. I saw somebody with the 4 fingers up there. Perfect. So page 4 of the solicitation document will outline the deadline for the, it'll outline the posting date, the pre-bid conference date, the deadline for submitting your questions, the deadline for submitting your bid. And then it will outline their other deadlines related to announcements of potential bidders. And oftentimes that gets pushed back depending on the agency and how many bidders they got. And the anticipated award is March 1st, which gives them a little bit of buffer there, because remember, this one expires, I think, middle of March. So not a whole lot of buffer, but a little bit of buffer. So the next thing, so we talked about the deadline to submit. That pre-proposal conference is coming up October 30th. So they gave you about 10 days to find the solicitation and prepare your questions. You want to come to that meeting prepared to hear and learn and ask questions. And a lot of times the contracting officer at that time will say, can you put that question in writing? And that's intended to make sure that they understand the question fully. And so they can cut and paste that into the future amendment that will be all the Q&A. So you want to keep in mind that any question you ask will be asked in front of your competitors, potentially, and it will be published for the world to see. So if you want strategies on how to ask questions without giving away any secret sauce, I don't know if that applies to this type of solicitation, but you can work with your advisor on that. The question deadline is something I wanted to call out there.
Okay.
Also on page 4, does anyone see
4.
the anticipated deadline or the deadline for submitting questions?
7th December.
Yeah. Yep. So the deadline for submitting questions is the 4th, and then the deadline for the answers, which is on the
Answers.
contracting officer, and that he has to respond by the 7th. So you can go ahead and put on your calendar right now on December 7th or 8th, you want to make a note to log into Webs and take a look at the amendments, because that's where those will be posted. And a lot of times your competitors will ask questions that you didn't even think of or didn't realize that there wasn't a clear answer to in the solicitation. So you want to make sure you're aware of those. So this particular checklist is fully customizable. There's opportunities here, like a site visit date is on this checklist, and there's probably not a site visit for this particular solicitation type. If you were in construction, you would definitely have a site visit, so you'd want to keep that in there for future opportunities. But for this particular one, you can totally take this checklist and customize it to your needs. That's why we give it to you in Word, and you can add as many areas that you think are important to your ability to have a responsive bid back to the government. I did want to point out on the actual solicitation, if you don't mind, can you now see my Word document, or do I need to reshare?
Reshare.
Okay, I will go ahead and reshare my screen. Here we go. And so this is page 4. This is where we were getting all those answers in terms of deadlines. I do want to kind of scroll up here. Just let us get oriented just a skosh here. Notice right here, awarded by county. So that's going to be one thing you're going to have to look at your business and determine which counties you want to do business in. And notice there's 3 categories. And so there's general cleaning, floor cleaning, and window washing. And you may bid on any or all of the categories. So here we're getting a sense of the size and scope of this particular opportunity. Forgive my eyes. This is where I wanted to go, page 2. This contract will be awarded by county as indicated in the table below. And so for Adams County, it looks like their intent is to provide 5 contract awards and 2 reserved awards. And what that means, if we use our Control F, which is the best tool in all of the universe, I typed the word reserved into it. And here I find that Enterprise Services encourages the use of Washington small business and or certified veteran-owned businesses for contracting opportunities. Accordingly, to facilitate the state agency purchase of goods and services from small business or certified veteran, Enterprise Services intends to award reserved contracts by county as set forth below to the otherwise not awarded highest scored responsible bidders who certify as Washington Small or Washington Certified. So that is a lot of language. And what that really means is that they will award 5 contracts in Adams County. And then they will add 2 more if there's any small or Washington Small or certified veteran-owned businesses that weren't in that pool but still qualify. So potentially up to 7 awardees for Adams County for general cleaning services, and then they'll do the same thing for floor cleaning and window washing. If you have any questions about what I said or it was unclear, maybe we can explore it a little bit, but then the actual authoritative source is going to be Department of Enterprise Services. You're going to bring those questions to the pre-bid meeting or just send an email over to the contracting officer to get the official response. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint here and we'll finish out this pre-bid checklist. Let me reshare my screen. So the second page of the checklist just keeps on going related to the methods of proposal. How are you going to submit that thing? A lot of people think that if you're used to digitally bidding on work, that you would actually submit it through a portal, but that is not the case. You're going to be emailing the opportunity, and the solicitation should outline the maximum amount that your email should be in terms of size. So anyway, the other thing important to pull out here, and then we'll move on, is the type of solicitation in terms of how they're going to evaluate you. So are there non-cost factors to the award, or is it 100% cost factors? And that's something to pull out right away so that you know whether or not your firm can create a strategy that will win the opportunity if you choose to bid. Oh, sorry, I did say I would continue on, but this one's so good. So the type of contract in terms of price escalation clauses. We just came after a few years of severe inflation. And a lot of contracts were written to not allow any economic adjustments. And so it's an important question. If you can't find it in the sample contract, which I think is probably Appendix D or E, I forget which one it is, you want to read that sample contract, do a Control F on your computer to look for economic adjustment clauses, and see if it's firm fixed pricing for eternity, or for 1 year, or for 18 months, and how they're going to allow for any economic adjustments. And do you have to proactively ask for those? If so, you want to build that into your work plan, or is it going to be an automatic economic adjustment? And that'll help you set your pricing as well, because if the government's not going to be favorable to economic adjustment during the life of this contract, you might want to build that risk into your pricing. So anyway, you can talk more about kind of a strategy around pricing with your advisor, but I did want to pull that out because it's usually buried in the sample contract that a lot of businesses skip reading. So we recommend that you kind of orient yourself to the solicitation and then conduct a bid or no bid analysis based on your company's goals, your proficiencies, and your likelihood for success. And what this does is forces you to slow down and read the solicitation, use the checklist. Because you are a small business, you probably don't have time or the luxury to bid on something you're not going to win, or to bid on something that you don't have time to bid on. So you want to think about why you want this work and how you're going to bid. And this doesn't have to be a long, drawn out, multi-week process. We're asking you to take a few hours and understand the solicitation and just think about how it aligns. And so we've built a little checklist that you could use. We call it a bid, no bid assessment, and it's a scoring matrix. The other benefit to this is it allows you to not make so much of an emotional response, like, oh, I can do better than so-and-so, so I'm going to bid. Like, your adrenaline kicks in, and we don't want that when making business decisions too much. So the first question there, can we meet the technical requirements of the request? That requires you to go back to the document and look at the scoping document to see if you can actually do everything they're asking you to do. Can we meet the schedule requirements of the request? I'm not sure how relevant that is to this, because they're not going to outline the schedule ahead of time. They're going to put you on a master contract so agencies can simply call and place orders for what their needs are. Do we understand the risks associated with the program or janitorial service master contract at the state? And can you mitigate them? So what are the risks associated with getting on a master contract? Well, I already said one before, which is you could get on the statewide contract and then not get any work, right? So then you lost all that time it took you to bid, and now you're having to submit quarterly reports as to the spend on the contract, which is another time suck. So that's one risk. There's probably others. Does your experience match the needs of the request? If you've been providing commercial janitorial services that match the scope of what the state needs, give yourself a 5, right? If you maybe have been focused primarily on residential and you've dappered in commercial, but you've done 0 government, maybe that's a 3 or a 4. But do that self-assessment and kind of get a sense of whether or not it's a good fit for whether or not you can bid. So I won't go through all of them, but I think you get a sense of how to use this no bid assessment here. We'll go to the next page, which is, do you want to bid? So there's the can you bid, and now there's do you want to bid? And so is this janitorial services solicitation part of your core business? If it's a 5, then put it a 5. If it's nowhere near it, put it a 1. And at the end of the day, you want to kind of score up all the can you bid and all the want you bids, and then determine if it's a good outcome. I think I don't want to say anything more on this. There is that question, third to the bottom. Is there an incumbent on this? And we have a little stat in there. The incumbent typically wins. So they win for a lot of reasons. And it's not because the state or the contracting officer is doing anything in terms of bias. A lot of the time, there's an inherent incumbent preference when the incumbent understands the customer. They understand the true cost of doing business. They have a lot of experience getting to know what the state needs. So they're kind of already at a position where they'll be able to put together their bid, and they've bid before. So there's that. So they don't have to do all the things for the first time. So if there's an incumbent for this, can you compete against them? Can you unseat them, or can you join them on the statewide contract, and do you want to? So let's zoom back out again. We've talked about the pre-bid checklist. So you've read the documents, you've decided to bid or not bid. Assuming you've decided to bid, now it's time to organize your approach and assemble your bid. We're not going to go into how to do that today because it's very different depending on your resources as a business owner. But that's something that your Apex advisor can help you with at any stage. You can reach out to us at that email there. Let's cover some top tips before we get to the questions. And please feel free to put your question in chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll get to it. Number 1, ask questions and identify barriers to participation now. The state is really serious about increasing their spend to small businesses, veteran-owned businesses, as well as those that are women, minority, and other disadvantaged groups. And so if you believe when you're reading this that there's some sort of barrier to your participation in the bid that you think the state could fix, by all means, let them know. And they have people within DES whose job it is to help reduce barriers, but they can only reduce the barriers they know about. So you want to make sure that you identify any barriers to participation now, because later, if you choose to protest, for example, like, hey, this whole thing wasn't fair from the beginning, they're like, why didn't you bring it up sooner? And that kind of reduces your ability to have the likelihood you'll win your protest after the fact. Number 2 there, ask for a debrief regardless of if you win. This whole thing that you're embarking on is a learning opportunity to get better and improve your win rate over time. And so regardless of whether or not you win, you want to ask for a debrief and make sure you understand fully how your proposal was scored. If you didn't win, you want to make sure that you can, or even if you didn't bid, you want to see if any of those successful contractors that will be announced in March, maybe they're allowed to subcontract and maybe they need subcontractors. Or maybe there's agencies in your locality that are not using the statewide contracts. You could target them. And my 4th tip here is to double check if you're Washington in-state small and webs. And if you're eligible to certify as a veteran-owned business, you would do that with the Washington Department of Veteran Affairs with our buddy Shamika, who can process that within about 1 or 2 weeks. So it's not too late to certify as a veteran-owned business if you think you qualify. Just before we go over to questions, we do have some upcoming networking events where you can meet us in person, as well as probably DES and many, many other agencies. The North Puget Sound Contracting Conference is coming up October 6th. It's up in Everett. And then if you're on the east side of the state, please join us at Meet the Bigs November 2nd at Northern Quest Resort for a half-day event there. Both of these events will have a ton of potential government customers and primes available to chat with, and it's a good opportunity to market your business. This is our contact here. Lisa and I are very sincere that we hope that we can be of value to you, not only today, but in the future as you embark on your bidding journey. You can reach out to us at training@washingtonapex.org. And if you're not in Washington, there's the link to where you can find an Apex Accelerator in a town near you. So with that, I'm going to stop share so I can fully see my chat and take any questions that you might have.
All right, Tiffany, here's one that came in directly to me. So I am going to ask, there's 3 of them. The first one is, how can you identify an incumbent?
Excellent. So the incumbent just refers to the people that are currently on contract. There's 8 of them, and you can see those on the website for the current contract, and I will pull that up. We can take a look right now, or we can move on to the next
Super.
question.
Yeah, let's do that. Because we have 3 right now. So let's answer that.
Okay. Oh, I already have it open. Look at me.
Sweet.
At me. So this is the let me zoom up. Let me go curl up here. This is the contract summary for Janitorial Services. And it's at this link here that I'll throw into the chat for you. And so you can kind of follow along with me here. And we have, it's mentioning here, DES is developing a new solicitation. Out it is. And you scroll down, watch your eyes, awarded contractors right here. We got A1, ABM, Bryant, all the way down here. And then if you keep going, this is where you can take a look at the vendors by county and their pricing and contact information. So nothing is secret in public procurement. So keep that in mind when you're bidding, but also know that you can find that information here. There's also kind of a handy listing of the 8 winners here from the last time they did this.
All right. And you also put that link in chat, so everybody can refer to that. So beautiful. All right. Here's the next question. My business partner and one of my employees are both veterans. However, not sure if we are certified at the VA. Can I find out pretty easily?
You can, yeah. I would recommend that you open up your profile on Webs and take a look there first. And if that doesn't work, the Department of Veteran Affairs, Washington State Department of Veteran Affairs has a directory, and I'll see if I can find it real quick while we move on to the next session, and then put that next question, and then I'll put that link into the chat.
Super. Okay. The third question, will you show an example of a bid that got awarded?
Sure.
I'll do the VA. I'll find the VA information. You do that one.
Okay.
Okay.
I just found it though. Okay.
Okay.
I'm just using. Okay. So I think this is the question. Let's take a look. I'm going back to that same website that's in the chat right now. And I'm going to, instead of looking at the vendors by county and their pricing, I'm going to go ahead and open the selected documents. You can see my screen right now, right? Okay.
It's blank right now.
It's
thinking.
It's thinking. Okay, good. Welcome to the world that is my computer right now. It's thinking really hard. So this is, I opened up Township.
Solicitation. Yes.
This
Perfect.
is, this is their contract. So this isn't what they submitted in terms of their solicitation. This is their contract. Do we have the solicitation? I don't know. Oops, sorry, that's different.
You could probably go back in archived. Yes, historical data, original right there.
So this is the original solicitation as written by DES.
Mm-hmm.
This is the bid tab of everyone.
That's good information.
That bid. Mm-hmm. So we can take a look at that. So play around on here, whoever asked that. And if you are still stuck, let me know, or let the contracting officer know at DES what it is you're looking for, and we can help you uncover it.
This is Shayna. I'm on my phone. Sorry.
Okay.
But it is in historical documents, the winning bids.
Right.
Yeah, that's where you were, Tiffany.
Okay. Yeah. So on the bid tab, Shayna, is that where you would recommend I go?
Yeah, it's underneath the bid tab. The historical winning bids are in there.
Excellent.
Okay. So thank you. I think I'm in the right spot. Winning bids examples. Ooh, yeah. This is fun.
And this
It-
is
about-
a gold mine of information.
Oh, it's right here. I love that. Okay, so if you weren't tracking where I went to that page I gave you the link from. I scrolled all the way down to the historical documents and I found winning bid examples. And here we have Township. Sorry for picking on you, Township, if you're on the line, but your bidder response is right here. So this is again, this is based Exhibit B on the old solicitation. So we want to make clear that you have to make sure you read fully the new solicitation in case they changed the questions, in case they are asking something completely different or change the format. So, this again is a gold mine and very useful, especially if there wasn't a ton of changes from the old one to the new one.
Okay.
Next question.
That was in chat. Let's see if anything else came in. Oh, yes. Can you explain the pricing plus percentage?
I sure can. And actually, I will let DES do that for me because they have on there, I'm opening up the solicitation again, and I will reshare my screen so you can see this. Oh, wait, where did I read this? They gave an example. I think it's back on that page I was on. Excuse me, one moment. Markup rates. Yep, here's our example. Okay, back on that website that I shared in the chat, it has some information that's how to use this contract. This is instructions to state agencies. And so once again, this is current and it's not future. So these instructions might change based on the actual solicitation, but on the old contract, this is the example they gave for a percent markup rate. So the contractor's percentage markup rates are based off Washington Labor and Industries prevailing wage rates per county and will be used to determine the contractor's hourly rate. For example, if a vendor is performing work in a county that has a wage rate of $13.50 and the percentage markup rate of 85%, the maximum hourly rate will be $24.98 or $13.50 times 0.85 plus the $13.50. So you can kind of do the math a little bit on that. It goes on to say that contractors cannot exceed the rates listed in the document. However, vendors may also offer lower percentage markup rates if they want. So I don't know how often that happens, but potentially that help.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. That is it for the questions that have come into chat. Any of you can unmute or raise your hand and we'll call on you if you want to ask any more questions. We have some thank yous, which is good.
Sylvia, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for having me here. I am registered through the state. I'm a small woman, minority, and you were right. You answered a lot of the questions because even though I had applied before, I have never, in the 25 years in business, I have never been able to get a bid. And even though there is this specific office in Tri-Cities, government office, they has given our name because we done previously a job for them, and they require, they ask if we can do it because it is a lot of, it is very hard to get employees who pass background checks. That is very important. We need to make sure that our employees are in really good standing. The record, it's clean, and especially when, not only for commercial, residential, but our government offices. And I hear a lot of that, the government janitorial, that that's where they struggle the most. It's not what a good job they do, it's just background checks. So I thank you for this because now I am learning a lot more. I have never attended to something like this, to a webinar, and it has given me a lot now to understand how this works.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sylvia, for that comment. And we invite you to work with Maria out of our Tri-Cities office. Did you say Tri-Cities?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tri-Cities.
Okay. I didn't make that up. Yeah. Tri-Cities office. She'd be delighted to sit down with you and explore the solicitation further.
And it's Maria K. What's her last name again?
I'll put her email in the chat.
Yeah, I'll do that. I got it.
Oh, okay.
Hi,
Um,
Tiffany.
Kevin.
It's me, Karen. I'm from DES. I just wanted to see if I can add to that. We are working with Maria with an event, Aleman. We're gonna do a janitorial information session.
Okay.
And sorry about that. A janitorial information session here at the Tri-Cities area at the community college. So we're working with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Maria,
That's Maria.
Tax, SBDC, and there's going to be a lot of resources on WBE. I will put that in the chat. It's going to be for the janitorial November 14th. So if you're interested, please make sure to make it.
And will
Awesome.
that be
I
in
will.
Spanish?
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
And Karen, I think that'll be in Spanish. Will it also be in English?
Yes, that will be bilingual. So we're gonna have an English session from 3 to 5 and a Spanish from 5:30 to 6:30, I believe.
Great.
And I'll put the link on the chat so that anybody who wants to attend can register. And if they're in the Tri-Cities, we're also working to make one in the Yakima area, and we're gonna be working with Maria as well. So she'll be going, and then YCDA. So we're trying to work with you and then have also those grassroots organizations in each county.
Thank you. Thank you. The reason I asked for Maria's last name is because I hadn't met with Maria, and they have an office in the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Pasco. And I kind of had an idea it was her, but now that you mentioned all this information, and it is her, and I'll make sure to attend on November 14th.
Okay, perfect. Yes.
Thank you.
Karen, I just put the link in the chat. So as you were talking, I was able to do it.
Oh,
So,
thank you so much.
yes.
Thank you.
You got it. And that is for the Spanish version. Okay, super. All right. Okay. Abigail, what do you have?
Hi, so I'm looking at the scoring here for the announcement. So the historical show how each incumbent or the winners how they fared out in that scoring. I mean, I know they show the pricing and who won. I just want to be strategic about like how to allocate my time in the, there's 700 points for the qualification evaluation, and then there's 300 for the pricing. So it looks like there is more weight on the qualification versus the pricing. So I just wanted to see if that is available for us. I would assume so.
Yeah, so just to catch other people up to where she's at, this is on the solicitation document, page 8. It has the evaluation criteria, and this is the second place I look. Typically, when I look at a solicitation, I look at when it's due, what the scope is, and then I go direct to the evaluation criteria. What does the state care about? And it looks like right now it is set at 700 points for performance requirements and qualifications, and then 300 based on price. There's also this executive order related to labor that you would want to take a look at. And so to address your direct question is, how did the others score? And that I would want to open the original solicitation that the firms are under now to take a look and see if the bid evaluation was similar first. And then I would want to look at, and maybe we could pull that up right now. So that might be an interesting thing if I go back to that web page where you can pull up the historical documents. Let's take a look, see if it's on there. Because it might have been scored differently is my point. So And now I'm opening up this winning bid for township, picking on them again. Oh, here we go. Bidder may receive a maximum of 700 points based on how they respond to all questions. And so there's a clue right there that it was probably somewhat similar. And you're asking how they scored on this. So here's an example, but did they score high, right?
Yeah.
Shayna, are you on the line? I'm going to go back to the bid tab. I think it's right here.
I'm sorry, Tiffany, I didn't catch that. What was the question?
I'm also
So-
trying to look for you, Tiffany, but I'm pretty
Yeah.
much doing the same thing you're doing. I would say pretty much you're on the right track because that's what I'm doing. It'd likely be going back and
Oh.
forth between the winning bid examples and the bid tab, because the bid tab shows the score that each business received, and then the winning examples show their responses. What I cannot find though is like the breakdown. It's just adding up the totals in the bid tabs. I at least I haven't found where it's like this question that will be scored up to 80 points. Of those 80, how much did they get? That I'm not finding. But yeah, I'm pretty much doing the same thing you're doing, going back and forth between bid tab and winning bid examples.
Yeah, so if we looked up township who here and we were able to see their example of the winning bid they submitted. They received the markup points received was 54 out of, we're not sure, 300, I'm guessing. Because CLX was the lowest and they got all 300 points. But here,
Okay.
so the non-cost factor points received is 679.
Okay, that's probably the qualification
It's
because
right
then the
down
numbers
below.
matches.
If you look down below, the evaluation will show for the cleaning right down below there, and then sequentially on the next two tabs, I would assume that looks like that'd be set the total up to 700 points that each person would have received.
Okay.
Great.
And
That's
Tiffany,
fun.
there's a tab on there for responsiveness and responsibility. That's an important one too.
Yeah, and this is going to be pass fail. So, you know, was it received on time? Did they complete exhibit C? Did they complete exhibit B? And did they do the exhibit A1 and A2? And so you can see here all of these people. That's the first thing to do. And have a third party make sure that you've hit all you're responsive. Because wouldn't that be sad if you spent all this time preparing and then you forgot to submit on time, or you didn't submit one of the components that are required? Thank you.
Thank you.
Nathaniel had a question. Nathaniel, if you want to unmute. I think okay, here, you're good. Go for it.
Whoop,
How you
okay.
doing? Back to the question about excuse me. The lady was talking about background checks. So what if you're going through the second chancellor program through like a probation officer and stuff like that? Is that considered, can they be hired to state contract?
So that was one of my questions, was, are background checks required? And for that, I would open up exhibit D. D
No.
as in dog is the actual contract.
No.
And then, oh, go ahead.
No, I believe what my question is, ma'am. Like she said, you have to pass background checks. Now I'm asking, like through the state, if I'm hiring second chancellors and they're going through a program, will they be accepted to work? Or is this, if you can't pass the background check, you can't work?
And so this is the only guidance it gives you in the solicitation here, and I can share my screen. It does not answer your question. And so that is a good question for the contracting officer, who might say it depends on the customer that's using you, but I don't know what he'll say. So that is a perfect question to provide in writing to DES. This is the only thing it says. If requested by the purchaser, that's going to be any agency using this statewide contract. Contractor shall provide evidence of the current background checks
All employees.
for any. So super not helpful to your question, but now you know where to go find the answer, which would be emailing the contracting officer.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any more questions in the chat.
Okay, and we're coming up on 1 o'clock today. So
Oh, we have Abigail. Okay.
go ahead, Abigail.
I'm
Unmute.
full of questions. Hi. How long does the review from PTAC, how long does that take? Is it like 1, 2, or 3 review? And when should we have those scheduled?
I would recommend, if you're not already connected to an Apex advisor, to go ahead and do that today and have your initial meeting and schedule that now with your advisors. Some of our advisors are pretty booked out, but if we know a bid is due, we will make time. And so typically what an ideal scenario would look like, Abigail, is that you have a relationship with your advisor very soon, if you don't already have one already, and say, hey, this bid is due in whatever the deadline was, December something or other. 3 weeks prior, I'm going to send you, my advisor, my draft proposal response. And then the advisor can have that planned in their schedule and turn it around next day or 2 days, 3 days later. And then you guys can go over some of the recommendations that we make in your proposal. So yeah, that would be an ideal scenario, but by all means, work with your advisor and map out a strategy for that communication and support.
I already said it right when you sent it. So yes, I just wanted to know. I know people get busy. Thank you so much, Tiffany.
Yeah. And what county are you in, Abigail?
Well, there's my business partner is in King and I'm in King and Kitsap and Mason. So I just wasn't sure which one, and is it required to be in person or is it in Zoom? If that's the case, I'll take whoever's more available.
Sure.
I wasn't sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we typically default to where the business is headquartered at. So
Okay.
and we have offices in Kitsap. We also have offices in King. So you're in good hands with any one of those advisors. I was going to see if they were on the line now and you guys could start chatting it up, but I don't think that Daryl or Melinda is here today.
All right.
So an
Thank
important
you.
date is December what? Everybody say it out loud. 15th. It's due on December 15th.
15th.
It's
That's
December
right.
4th for your
4th,
questions.
4th.
Questions
Yeah.
December 4th. Yes.
All right. Thanks, Lisa, for correcting me on that.
I
we
wasn't doing that.
Well, I said December something, which isn't
Yeah,
right.
that's right. Something. 15th.
Right. Well, good. We're at the top of the hour. If you want to hang on and still pepper us with questions, I'm still available and we can do that. Otherwise, we will see you at the pre-bid conference October 30th. Oh, excuse me, where you'll ask all your official questions. So thanks for popping on today. Happy bidding and best of luck to all of you.